Hi guys, I'm Ken DiCenzo, and I'm going to talk to you guys about my social network mapping. I chose to use Facebook as my personal social network that I mapped out, and LinkedIn as my professional network that I've mapped out. But now, before I go into talking about those two specific sites, I wanted to talk about the importance overall of connectedness. As Adam said, the desire to communicate is hardwired into all of us. I think that really comes out in all of social media, especially when you look at social media's influence on friendships. Social media makes forming social bonds that is, much easier than it ever was before. You can now form bonds with anyone from all over the world if you choose to, whereas you're not forced to remain in your specific sphere of influence that you had before. Now, the three types of people that we're going to look at are the connectors, the mavens, and the promoters, and the influencers. The connectors are the least special, because as Adam said, everyone is considered a connector on social media. You are connected to people who are connected to other people who also have connections of their own. Mavens are more important. They are the creators of new content, and it could be different in different contexts, which we'll look more into when we discuss the differences between Facebook and LinkedIn. And then we have our promoters and our influencers who try to promote their products or brands or influence others into buying into their products or brands. For Facebook, again, this is the personal network that I'm going to utilize. I managed to separate my spheres of influence into 4 separate ones, being the friends that I have from high school, friends that I have from my fraternity, friends that I have from residential life, and my family. Looking at the connectors, mavens, and influencers of each of these groups, my role overall on Facebook, I would say, is a connector. I don't really produce much content, if any at all. I share things at most, but not often. On Facebook, in a work sense, I create press releases, I film professors and students, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about in a personal context. In the group of fraternity friends, I would say that the current maven right now is the president, who is Harrison Armstrong. He is the one that creates the polls, tells people about events, makes sure that everyone is on the same page. Whereas that he, in a few months, will no longer be the maven of that group because there will be a new president. So the maven of that Facebook group changes on a yearly basis. Same with the influencer of that group, which currently is Chris Miller, because he is the recruitment chair. The recruitment chair tells us what we want our brand to be. He tries to influence others into joining the group. And again, that will change once we have a new recruitment chair as well. If I had to choose a maven for my group of Res Life friends, I would say that it is any of the resident hall directors, who are the people who are directly above of myself as an RA. They're the ones that make sure that the resident assistants get the help that they need. They're the ones that make sure that we stay on the same page and that we connect and utilize our residents as much as possible. An influencer for this group, first one that comes to mind would be Sarah Acevedo, because she is a member of the Residence Hall Council. Through this, she tries to organize resident assistants and RAs into bringing their residents to RHC events such as skating or some free foods events that they have. She isn't necessarily creating this content, she's just trying to influence us into going to these events. Looking into my family circles, this one was a little tougher because I feel the only maven really is my uncle, Mark Foley. He's the one that creates events and invites the family over for family events. Influencers, I could not really think of anyone in the family per se. For the high school, if I had to pick a maven, I would say that it's Alexis Sierri, because she was the president of our class, and she's the one that tries to organize the 5-year reunion, which is coming up soon, and anything else that has to do with high school to this date. Chris Barry, in that group of friends, is an influencer in the effect that he uses the high school group to better his business of being a real estate agent. Looking at questions addressed for Facebook, who started the network and has their role changed? Mark Zuckerberg started the network back when he was in college at Harvard, and his role really hasn't changed. He has yet to sell the company. He still organizes the company as a whole. Is there anything specific that the network is organized around? I would say that connecting one another, no matter the distance, is what the network has and always will be organized around. So in that effect, that hasn't really changed. What do the networks succeed in communicating, and where do they fail? Connecting initially on Facebook is very easy. I found that the hardest part is staying connected, and that can cause issues just because of the algorithms that Facebook uses, and sometimes you don't see everything that you may want to see or seek out to see. Looking at LinkedIn as my professional network, I managed to break it down into 4 groups again. My current employers being people from Quinnipiac, either in the field of residential life or at the job that I have at the Office of Public Affairs. They would be filed under the current employers. Past employers would include anything from my internships at KEB Communications to any of the summer internships that I've had. Job opportunities are put down here because I try to connect with those who are either in the positions that I am seeking or have influence on the positions that I'm seeking so that I can get my name and foot in the door off the bat. And then a final professional area of LinkedIn would be DataPick, which is the startup company that my friends and I are creating. We use emotional intelligence to analyze potential sales reps and see how they would perform for their roles. Through this, my role is creating a network of academic professionals and researchers. So I have used LinkedIn to reach out to professors in the fields of psychology, emotional intelligence, personality. LinkedIn has helped me set up multiple meetings with them and has helped me create ties with Yale Center of Emotional Intelligence as well as Wharton's People Analytics. And hopefully these connections will blossom into things that assist my partners and I in starting the startup. Looking at mavens, connectors, and influencers in the LinkedIn community was a little harder for me. I couldn't really disseminate them into the separate groupings because my groupings were broad. But mavens overall on LinkedIn, I feel, would be content producers, those who create presentations, articles, and opinion pieces that are then shared and liked and shown to one another on LinkedIn. These are the people who have the biggest influence and typically have the largest amount of connections on LinkedIn. Moving on to the connectors of LinkedIn. Everyone on LinkedIn is a connector. It even calls you, it says that you are a connection when you're looking at other people. You create your own sphere of influence, and through that sphere of influence, you then can connect to and link to other people and hopefully grow your network. Influencers on LinkedIn, I definitely would think are the companies or the recruiters who put themselves on LinkedIn. Companies are looking for jobs. They're not looking for jobs. They're looking for candidates to fill job positions. And that's what recruiters are doing as well. They're using LinkedIn to influence and brand themselves so they're more appealing to people who are searching for a job. And then finally, looking at the questions from LinkedIn, who started the network and has their role changed? Reid Hoffman started the LinkedIn network, and then in December of 2016, he sold it to Microsoft for over $26 billion. So his role has definitely changed because he no longer has a role at LinkedIn. Is there anything specific that the network is organized around? The network is organized around jobs and industries. So unlike Facebook, which is organized strictly around connecting people for the purpose of connecting people, LinkedIn is organized around the purpose of connecting one another for the purpose of finding, creating, and maintaining job positions. Where does this network succeed in communicating and where do they fail? The LinkedIn is very good at building on pre-existing connections, those that you have met in person, those that you met in the workplace, but I feel it is rather difficult to create new connections strictly through the site alone. Potentially if they had webinars or ways to build your professionalism in various communities, I feel like that might be a good way to create connections within LinkedIn from strictly a LinkedIn site. Thank you guys for listening to my presentation. I hope you guys enjoyed.